in vet or vet science, here is your opportunity to learn. All right? So I'd like to hand you over to Martha.
Super.
Lauren Laura and his lovely, is it Matrix? Is that Matrix?
No, this one's Poppy.
Poppy.
The rug was for another one.
All right, I'm going to
Super.
leave you in the paper.
Okay.
And,
Wonderful. Really nice to meet you all. My name's Marta. I have been working at the Camden Equine Centre for 15 years. So just to give you a little bit of a background, I went to vet school in Perth in Western Australia back in 2002. Just last month I had my 20-year vet school reunion, so it was quite fun. After I finished vet school, I knew I wanted to do horses, kind of probably like you guys. You love horses, you want to be around them, and I knew I just kind of wanted to do that. I didn't want to do small animals, so I went to America for 5 years. That's kind of the place where, you know, there's lots of technology, lots of advancements, lots of horses as well. So I was there for 5 years. I did an internship. I did a 6-month internship with neonatal foals and critical care medicine, which was really interesting. And then I did a full-year internship in medicine and surgery, and I kind of really got to like surgery. And then I stayed on and did a 3-year residency in surgery. So I'm a surgeon at the hospital, and I see all kinds of things, from simple things to more complicated things, emergencies, electives. But certainly what I was asked to come talk to you guys about is the topic of how to know if your horse is unwell, so the signs to look for, which sometimes aren't that obvious, and secondly, how to do a good physical exam. And that's definitely the basis of working out what's wrong with your horse. And sometimes it takes time for a vet to come to you. And in the meantime, it's nice to be able to do a couple of things and to firstly know how serious things are. And also, it's really handy if you can tell your vet, and they'll be pretty impressed if you can tell them the heart rate of your horse, the temperature, the respiratory rate, and it can help them to gauge also how serious things may be. And if we have time, I thought I'd go through how to do a hospital bandage. But really, we can also tailor this to what you guys want to learn about. So if there's something that doesn't make sense, something that you want covered, just put your hand up. This is very interactive, so please participate. So here we have Poppy, lovely Poppy. And let's start with talking about how do we know if a horse is unwell. So you know what your horse is like, hopefully what the normal things are for your horse, but what are the things that we kind of can look at and go, oh, something might not be quite right with our horse? Anyone? Yep. Changes of behaviour, definitely, and that's probably the first one, right? So dull, depressed, not quite themselves, lethargic. You go to ride them and they don't have that pep, they don't really want, they don't go forward, something like that. Yep, definitely. Was there a hand at the back?
If they stop sweating, or the number of poops or how they poop.
Definitely. So that's a huge one, right? So a horse should be pooping a lot, right? You finish a ride, they poop. You ride, they poop. They're always pooping. So it's really good to know what's normal for your horse. How many poos should they pass overnight? And I know sometimes that's hard if they're in a paddock, especially if it's shared with other horses. But still, you should have some gauge of how many poos and is it normal? And also in an environment like this where they're in a box. If you go in the morning and there's no poo or one poo, that's not normal, right? So you might want to check other things. Like what? What other things to check? Yep, definitely. So do they have a good appetite? If your horse usually, cleans up everything but they've left food, okay, that's also not normal. So if you have a horse that isn't pooping, is inappetent, that's you know, time for you to kind of take a step back and maybe do a physical exam that you're going to learn about today. So definitely, all of those things, drinking, are really important to know the normal for your horse and then to gauge if it's abnormal. All right, so I usually teach the vet students a physical exam should be able to be done in about 5 minutes. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time doing it. But the other important thing with a physical exam that I teach is to see changes. So let's firstly talk about what is a physical exam? What information do we want to know from our physical exam? So, what was that?
Heart rate.
Heart rate, definitely. Heart rate. Okay, so you guys probably all know, most of you have probably had something to do with a vet before. You know you can take a heart rate with a stethoscope, yeah? You might not have one. I'll teach you how to do one with a stethoscope, but if you don't have one of these, how else can you take the heart rate of a horse?
You can go down to the area and you can feel their pulse over there.
So you can feel for their digital pulses, yes. And you're absolutely right, and digital pulses are a very important part of the physical exam as well, okay? And we're going to talk about that. Where else can you take the pulse that might be a bit easier for you, that you don't even have to bend down? Yep. So behind the elbow, here? Yep. So you can, but it can be hard because the heart is deep within the chest. Sometimes you don't feel it very well. So you've just told the exact place where we use our stethoscope to listen to the heart, okay? So that is on the left hand side of the horse, behind the elbow, we dig in our stethoscope and that's where we listen for the heart rate. And I'm going to get some of you guys to come up here and start to have a little listen soon. But where else can we feel for the pulse? What's that? So around the throat. So we're getting closer and closer. Anyone else? Behind the ears?
Yeah.
Not a bit lower, that's okay, all good. I'm so glad you're participating. So just under the jaw, right? So just under the jaw, if you flick your hand forward and back, you feel like a little thin rope. And that's one of the arteries, okay? There's an artery vein and a nerve there. And then if you just gently press down, you can feel the pulse there. So you don't even have to have a stethoscope. But that's the most reliable way, okay? So before I get a few volunteers up, what's the normal heart rate of a horse? Anyone know? I can give you a multiple choice, but does anyone know what it is? Is it 10? Is it 40? Or is it 80? 40. So we tend to say 28 to 44 is the normal heart rate, okay? 28 to, so just think 40. And if it's on either side of that, that's completely normal. So 80 would be a very, very high heart rate and cause for a little bit of worry, okay? So we'd have to investigate that a bit further. It's more rare for a horse to have a really low heart rate. They can sometimes with murmurs and things. But just think 40. 40 is normal. Does anyone want to have a listen? Maybe we can get 2 people up. Anyone want to have a listen? Do you guys want to come up? Anyone want to have a listen? So, if you pop your stethoscope in your ears, and if you tap the stethoscope, can you feel that? Okay, so, okay. And then, so you hold it and you dig it in. Can I get 2 volunteers to have a listen to the pulse? And then we're going to see if we get the same heart rate. Yep. So I'm going to let you guys have a feel. Okay, don't say the number that you get. And I'll let these ladies have a feel, and if you get it okay. And tell me for over a minute. All right. So we'll give them some time. We've got a little bit of a competition. We'll see if we get the same heart rate from, thank you, from the chest versus the pulse. So, okay, so that's heart rate. So really, really important to check. So a little bit higher. So it's behind the elbow, but up here in the chest. And you've got to really dig it in there like that. And you should hear, it's kind of like, it's slow. And we say lub-dub, lub-dub. And the lub-dub is 1. So it's actually probably easier just to feel it underneath the jaw. But it's good to know where it is. And if you've done that bit, you can also feel for the other one. Did you guys hear it? Okay. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a minute. All right, so heart rate. What else? What else is part of a physical exam? Temperature. Excellent. Where do we take the temperature of a horse? Up the bottom. Okay. Does anyone want to take the temperature of this horse? Come on up. Up the bottom. Yeah, just pop it up when you're in there.
Is she okay?
Yep. Oh, very good question. Sorry, what's your name? Jess. So Jess just... Very good. Yep, you turn it on. Super. Oh, is it on? Yep. Yep. So you've got to go until it beeps. All right, so these guys are all doing a really good job. We're just taking the temperature. Jess, sorry guys, Jess just asked a really good question. Is this horse okay for me to put a thermometer up the bottom? And that's a really good question. Obviously, you've got to suss it out. Some horses hate you sticking anything up their backside and don't like you being up their backside. So you've got to gauge that. But typically, you can get it done. All right, let's see how these guys are going. How'd you go? Did you get a... You can feel it up here? You can't hear it. Okay, that's all right. Probably takes a bit of practice. What did you get? Did you get a heart rate? No. So what we do is we have a watch and we time how many beats over 15 seconds and then just times it by 4 so that you don't have to actually stand there for a minute and get the heart rate. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Did you get a heart rate? No. Okay, next time. All right, how you guys? Okay, so we'll get a heart rate and we'll see if it's normal. Okay, so heart rate, temperature, what else in a physical exam? Gums, excellent. What's the normal gum colour for a horse? So light pink, should they be dry or moist? Moist. Have you guys heard the term capillary refill time? What does capillary refill time mean? Does anyone want to be really brave? Yes.
Press on it and you see how quick it comes like color.
Very, very good. So it's excellent. So it's an idea of perfusion. Does this horse have good perfusion of the tissues of the body? So exactly. So we'll have a look. Excellent. So hold on a sec. What do we get? Heart rate? 36. Is it normal? Yeah. Perfectly normal. Excellent. All right. Will Poppy like to come a bit closer? All right, so let's have a look so far Poppy is going very well. She's had a normal temperature. She's got a normal heart rate. So let's have a look at her gums. Sorry, I just have to figure this out. All right. So we look at, and some horses don't like you looking at their gums, but you lift up and look at the front part. Don't worry about the side. Sometimes the vet students are going somewhere up here and I say, don't do that. Go at the front. Poppy's giving you a great look there. So light pink, and then you take your finger, press it and make it white. And then see how long it takes for it to go pink again. So count the seconds. So let's count. 1, 2. 2 seconds. So 2 seconds or less than 2 seconds is totally normal, okay? Capillary refill time. So what would it mean if, let's say, any guesses what it might mean if, let's say, capillary refill time is maybe 3 seconds or getting close to 4 seconds. The gums are a bit dry and they might be a little bit darker. Any? Yep? Yeah, very, very good. So it could be dehydrated. So all you guys that are riding your horses in summer now at this camp, it's a really good thing to check. Just after they pull up or before you go to ride them, just have a look at their gums and see if their CRT, we call it CRT, capillary refill time, is normal. Check their drinking and make sure that we're staying on top of their hydration. Really good, and because some horses don't like to drink in this kind of an environment. Okay, and why is drinking important for a horse? Might be sound like a really silly question, but why do we worry about it? So if they get dehydrated and they're not drinking, what kind of problems might we see? Just, I'm hearing things, speak up. Yeah, so they might not feel good, they might be lethargic, and that might lead on to other things. They might colic because they're not feeling well because they don't have enough fluid in their intestines and that kind of thing. So just things for you to watch. Excellent. All right, so we've done heart rate tick, temperature tick, mucous membranes tick. You knew a lot about that one. That was really good. And we started to talk about dehydration. Okay, we started to talk about digital pulses. So digital pulses are exactly that. There's these two big vessels that run down. Maybe we can go back to side on if that's okay. And just stay a bit close. Perfect. She's been so good so far. So there's two big vessels that run down on either side of the leg from about here, and they go all the way down to the heel bulbs, okay? And when you pick up the leg, or even if it's down, you can use your thumb, and at the fetlock area you can strum, and you feel something flicking underneath your fingers. That's what we call the palmar digital artery, vein and nerve, okay? That's also a location where we do nerve blocks to block out a foot if a horse is lame, for example, to see if the lameness is coming from that area. But this is where we feel for digital pulses. What should a normal digital pulse be? Should you be able to feel it? Not really, so just barely. You should be able to feel a very faint pulse, okay? What might it mean if that pulse is very strong? If it's really strong, yep. Excellent, really, really good. So might, for example, have an abscess. Very good. Anything else? Founder or laminitis. Yep, so that's two conditions. Excellent. Or on the less extreme, they might have a bruise, they might be they might have just general kind of foot soreness, but that's excellent. So really good to feel for the digital pulses as well. And we might not get people up, but if anyone at the end wants to have a feel, because there's so many of you, I'm happy to stay longer. But digital pulses, I kind of just bend down. I don't make them pick up the leg, and I just feel, and I just really gently press, and then I don't count. I just feel, can I feel it? Is it faint? If hers is very faint, completely normal. But if it's bounding, again, you put it into your kind of toolbox of information, okay? All right, digital pulses. So heart rate, temperature. I'm saying it again and again so we start to really remember. Heart rate, temperature, mucous membranes, digital pulses. Anything else? Sorry? Digestive sounds. Excellent. Where do we listen to digestive sounds?
Belly.
Okay, where on the belly? A, B, C. C, excellent. So we split the horse into quadrants. So we listen on the left and we listen on the right. we listen top, bottom, and on the other side, top, bottom, okay? We listen with a stethoscope. You can sometimes hear a horse's gut sounds without a stethoscope, but oftentimes you can't. So use a stethoscope. What are normal gut sounds? Should you hear them infrequently? A. B. Frequently. C. Very loudly. So between B and C, okay? Between B and C. So you shouldn't, so when you put the stethoscope on, it shouldn't be like 30 seconds before you hear a rumbling gut sound. You should be able to hear them constantly. If you're hearing them very loudly and they're extremely active, that can mean also that their intestine is hypermotile. And again, it's good to know your horse's normal. Stethoscopes are not expensive. You can get them, anyone can get them off the internet online for about $10, $20, and it's nice and handy to have one in your first aid kit. So yes, so when I'm listening to gut sounds, grab my stethoscope, pop it in your ears, make sure it's working, and I hang around for about 20 to 30 seconds on each quadrant, and it just sounds like gurgling or tinkling. Does anyone know what part of this is a bit tricky, and if you don't know, that's okay, but does anyone know what part of the intestine is on the right side of a horse that tinkles when you listen to it? What's that? So it's a part of the large intestine. Anyone? Starts with a C, but that's really good. Cecum. Did someone say cecum? No? I thought I heard cecum. Did you say cecum? Good job. Very, very good. So cecum is on the right side and it sounds very tinkly. All right. Excellent. All right, so let's run through what we've done. We've done heart rate. We've done digital pulses, temperature, mucous membranes, gut sounds. I can think of one more thing. Respiratory rate. Yeah? So how do we take the respiratory rate of a horse? Someone brave? How do we take the respiratory rate? Do you need one of these? How do we do it? We just count that. Yes, we look at their belly. It's the easiest way here. And we just count their breaths. Or you can watch their nostrils as well, or you can do both. Does anyone know the normal respiratory rate of a horse? What's that? 8. Can be 8 to 12, even 16 would be normal. So it's a wide range. Let's say 8 to 16 is completely normal. Excellent. Well, that's pretty good, guys. That is that's in a nutshell the physical exam of a horse. Something that you can certainly become more and more familiar with, and you get quicker and quicker and better the more that you do it. Any questions about that, about the physical exam? Any questions? No? Okay, super. Well, is there anything else that you guys would like to hear about, learn about? Do you want me to show you how to put on a hospital bandage? You do? Okay, super. All right, excellent. Let's do that. All right, so I'm going to run through, just put that. Okay, so let's say your horse, very often they get cuts, don't they? They get cuts on their legs, and I know you're probably all very good about bandaging a horse's legs for exercise, but this is a bit different. So I'm going to go through what I have. And I think that it's really handy to have it in a first aid kit as well. So a dressing, you can pick these up from the chemist, normal chemist that you go to get medicine. So that, something to keep it in place. I like something that's called soft band because it's soft and nice, and I'll show you how to do that. And then a bandage. These are nice because it's sterile, it's clean. So we'll put that on, and then you've got to keep that in place. You can, and what I do is I use vet wrap and then Elastoplast top and bottom. Obviously there's different variations, there's different ways of doing things, but this is a very, very common way of putting a bandage on a horse, and it actually has it's called a Robert Jones bandage. Okay, so if you hear the term Robert Jones bandage and you think, what the heck is that? That's one of these with all of these layers. Okay, so I don't know if you guys at the back want to come a bit closer, but I'm going to have to kneel down to put this on, and you might not see. So you're welcome to come a bit closer, but I'm just going to go through how to do it. So let's say, we're going to do the lower leg. Let's say that Poppy has a cut on her fetlock. Over her fetlock, you've cleaned it. You've used, so typically we use some dilute chlorhexidine or iodine, exactly what we use for our own wounds to clean it. It's important to know the depth of a wound, that it's not going into a joint or a tendon sheath, because, and that would require veterinary attention. So horses' legs just aren't built very well. Underneath that skin, there's some very important structures. And if those structures are penetrated, they require surgery, not just a bandage, okay? But we're just going to talk about a routine bandage for a routine wound, because you want to keep it clean and you want to keep it covered. All right, so I'm going to put on the dressing. And in this case, this dressing is a little bit big, so I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to get all my things ready so that then I can just do it. So cut the top off my bandage, get my vet wrap ready, and my soft band, and then things happen to fly away, so just always put them away. All right. Can you guys see? Just, you can come closer. All right, so I'm going to cut my dressing in half and get my soft band ready. Now, I don't have gloves on. You can also wear gloves to keep things extra clean. So I'm going to put my dressing exactly where the wound is, and then roll the soft band just to keep that in place. And I go below and then above to really nicely secure it. I don't pull it tight. If I pull it tight, this stuff breaks. I'm going to pass it around so you can just feel, you can either continue or I've just torn it, but do you want to have a feel of that? All right, so the dressing is nicely in place and that's held there. Then I'm going to get my bandage. It's called a gamgee, and it's a nice leg cotton. Right. And then I like to do my layers in the same direction. And I just, when I teach the vet students, I say don't get it all wrinkly. All right, because that can put pressure and they can get pressure sores. So I like to go to the heels and I tuck that in. This bandage is a little bit high for her over the carpus, but that's okay. And this I do quite firm. So try and as least wrinkles as you can. Thank you. Now it's time for the vet wrap. So with the vet wrap, how tight? I say do it tight enough so you get the wrinkles out. Vet wrap has all these little wrinkles. So I say do it tight enough that you get the wrinkles out. Vet wrap can also be really constricting, so I leave white bandage above and below because it can constrict. And then I just go down the leg. Again, just making sure that it's nice and even, just like that, leaving white bandage exposed below, and that's the reason for the elastoplast. Some people use elastoplast along the whole thing instead of the vet wrap. I just like both. And it's just a really common way. So then just a layer above, like that. And I cut that. And then this is much, much less likely to slip down. So just make it really, if the bandage, make the bandage look nice, no wrinkles, and then go really underneath those heel bulbs. I do that sometimes if the wound, let's say, is on the back of the pastern, you can lift up the leg and get that elastoplast all the way under the foot, because you don't want shavings and dirt to get caught up there and contaminate your wound. But that's basically, could have made that a little bit nicer, that's basically what a hospital bandage looks like. So a Robert Jones bandage. Any questions? Yes?
So when do you change between using betadine ointment and then changing to doing something like Solicide Gelonate? At what stage of the wound?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So I'll just put this so it doesn't fly away. So the question is, you know, when do we use different things on a wound? And I think there's, you know, people are going to have their different opinions for sure, and everyone has their preferred kind of product. Lately, honey has received quite a lot of, you know, there's been a lot of research on the use of Manuka honey for wounds. So in the early stages, I like to keep it really just nice and clean. Let's say clean it with betadine, but unless it's, so if I've got a very oozy wound, like let's say it's a very deep wound, right, but it's not into an important structure, or if it involves a muscle, it's a deep wound and it's really exudative, I'm probably going to clean it every day with dilute iodine. But if I've got a wound that's pretty dry, I'm not going to clean it every day with the iodine. But I use honey a lot under a bandage. You can get honey dressings, or you can buy Manuka honey from a health food shop. Studies have shown that it's very beneficial for wound healing. So it's antibacterial, it decreases proud flesh formation, and it helps a wound overall just look better and heal nicer. So I use that one a lot. I mean, there's so many different dressings and things that you can get. But the other thing is, if I've got an infected wound, I like sulfasulfadiazine, which has antibiotics in it. So it just depends what kind of a wound it is. But probably everyone has their opinion as well, right? There's a new one as well. There's a spray, well, I don't think it's new, but Alu spray. I've started to use that on wounds that I don't want to have a bandage, because that's the other thing. You don't have to bandage all wounds, and you don't want to keep a bandage on until the wound is completely healed, because you might get proud tissue, that kind of thing. So Alu spray is really nice. Literally, you spray it and the leg goes silver, the patch goes all silver. It detracts against flies, which is really nice, and you don't have to have a bandage in all cases. So it's such a case-by-case basis, but wounds in horses occur very, very frequently. And yeah, it's kind of, we have to decide case by case a little bit what to do. But that's a very good question. We could talk about it probably for a really long time. Any other questions about wounds or physical exams, or anyone want to share any experiences or stories or anything? Or you're kind of already watching morning tea and you want morning tea? Okay, anything else, or would you like? That's kind of what I had prepared, but you guys tell me. Yes.
So if you
Yes.
proud flesh,
Proud flesh, yeah.
ways that you like to deal with proud
Okay, proud flesh. So does everyone know what proud flesh is?
Sorry?
Does everyone know what proud flesh is? Yeah, the scientific name is exuberant granulation tissue, EGT, but we call it proud flesh. So do wounds on horses' legs heal well all the time, 100% of the time? You may have experienced this. No, they don't. So horses are very different with their wound healing. They're different than people, and horses are different than ponies. What happens is when they get a wound, their inflammatory reaction is really depressed. So they don't have a great inflammatory reaction. It kind of smoulders along, and their granulation phase in wound healing is delayed, and it just goes on and goes on. What we see is a wound that has proud flesh. So you may one day come to see your wound, and then a week later you see it, and there's a big knob of tissue, pink tissue, that's formed in that wound. That's proud flesh, okay? And it can be quite extreme. So it's another really common thing that vets deal with. The way that I like to deal with it is I cut it off. So typically I use a scalpel blade. There's no nerves in that area of proud tissue, so typically we sedate the horse. I use a scalpel blade that's nice and sharp, and I cut it off. I wish I had photos to show you. I had a horse about a year ago that developed a ball of proud flesh right over a wound in this area here. So we anaesthetised it, literally had to shave off that proud flesh. It likes to bleed a lot, so we have to put a Robert Jones bandage on. Then I typically take the bandage off in about 2 days and put a steroid cream on, and that delays that inflammation for about 2 to 3 days. And then I like to take the bandage off as soon as I can. So very quickly, take the bandage off, put some honey on, fly spray, and monitor it. But I find that keeping a bandage on a proud flesh wound or a wound that has had proud flesh, it'll come back. So that's kind of what I try, but yeah. Yeah, good question. Okay. Any other questions? No? Cool. Well, I hope you guys have a really great week. It sounds very exciting. Hope you, have a fantastic week.
Thanks, Marta.
No worries. No worries. Poppy.
So Camden Equine Centre is one of Pony Club New South Wales' new sponsors. You may have heard us chat to some of the vets on our new podcast that we're offering. And they've also sponsored our afternoon tea today. So we thank Camden and Marta for coming today, and we thank Camden Vet for sponsoring our afternoon tea.
Awesome. So, enjoy.
Awesome. Thanks, Marta.
No worries. Oh, Poppy. I'll take it off, hey? She doesn't need